The Confidence Code, by Katty and Claire Shipman. Introduction. Imagine for a moment a young woman, terrified of speaking in public. Her nights are sleepless, filled with worry about an upcoming speech. When she finally steps up to the podium, her hands tremble, clutching a sheaf of notes like a shield. Her sensible dress is her armor. Her voice is unsteady. But she keeps going. She fights her nerves and delivers her controversial message, again and again, often to rooms filled with skeptical men. She knows she has to conquer this fear to do her job, and so she does. Over 50 years, she becomes one of the most persuasive public speakers of her time. That young woman was Susan B. Anthony, the voice of women's suffrage in the United States. She fought her entire life for a right she would never get to exercise herself, dying 14 years before women won the vote. But she was never deterred. Not by her own fears, and not by a world that told her she was wrong. Now, picture a young girl in modern-day Pakistan. Just going to school is an act of defiance. At 12 years old, she decides to challenge the Taliban, blogging to the world about a girl's right to an education as schools are blown up around her. One day, extremists pull her off a school bus, shoot her in the head, and leave her for dead. But she doesn't die. And she doesn't stop. Her name is Malala Yousafzai. A century apart, what unites these two incredible figures? It's a quality that's hard to define but easy to recognize. It's a quiet, powerful belief that they can achieve what they set out to do. It's the engine that turns thought into action. It's confidence. And according to journalists Katty and Claire Shipman, for women, it's in alarmingly short supply. In their groundbreaking book, The Confidence Code, they embark on a journey to understand this elusive quality. They don't just offer opinions, they dive deep into the science, neuroscience, genetics, and psychology, to uncover what confidence truly is, why there seems to be a massive gap between men and women, and most importantly, what we can all do to build more of it. By the end of our time together today, you will understand the hidden code of self-assurance. You'll learn why competence, being good at what you do, is not enough to succeed. And you'll discover the simple, actionable steps you can take to rewire your brain and unlock the kind of confidence that changes not just what you do, but who you are. This isn't just about feeling good, it's about learning to act, to risk, and to live a bigger life. Let's begin. Book summary. If you believe that success comes to those who are the most talented, the most skilled, or the most competent, I have some unsettling news for you. The world doesn't quite work that way. The authors, Katty and Claire Shipman, spent decades as journalists interviewing some of the most powerful and accomplished people on the planet. And they kept noticing something strange. They would meet fantastically capable women, CEOs, lawmakers, brilliant engineers, who seemed to be haunted by a shadow of self-doubt. A successful investment banker would confess she didn't really deserve her big promotion. A pioneering engineer would say she wasn't sure she was the best choice to run a new project. Even Sheryl Sandberg, the COO of Facebook, admitted that some days she wakes up feeling like a fraud. Meanwhile, their male counterparts seemed to operate with a completely different internal monologue. Even when they were wrong, they sounded sure of themselves. The authors saw it in their own lives. Katty, despite a top-tier education and speaking multiple languages, spent years convinced she wasn't smart enough for the best jobs in journalism. Claire found herself deferring to the louder, more certain alpha male journalists around her, assuming their certainty meant they knew more. They started to wonder, is this just a few isolated stories, or is there a real, measurable confidence gap between men and women? The data they uncovered is staggering. Studies show that men initiate salary negotiations 4 times as often as women do. And when women do negotiate, they ask for about 30% less. One professor in England has been asking her business students for years what they expect to earn 5 years after graduation. Year after year, the men expect to earn significantly more. On average, the men believe they deserve about $80,000, while the women believe they deserve $64,000. That's not a reflection of their ability, it's a reflection of their self-worth. Women effectively believe they are 20% less valuable. Perhaps the most famous piece of evidence comes from an internal study at Hewlett-Packard. They found that women would only apply for a promotion when they felt they met 100% of the qualifications listed for the job. Men, they were happy to apply when they met just 60%. Men are comfortable leaning in, even when underqualified. Women, overqualified and overprepared, still hold back. We feel we need to be perfect. This leads to a question that sits at the very heart of the book. What if confidence is actually more important than competence when it comes to success? A psychologist at UC Berkeley named Cameron Anderson decided to test this exact idea. He gave students a list of historical names and events, but he included some fakes, like Queen Shattuck and Murphy's Last Ride. He found that the students who ticked off the most fake items, the ones who were not only less competent but also believed they knew more than they did, achieved the highest social status in the group. They were more admired, more listened to, and had more influence over decisions. Anderson's conclusion is both infuriating and enlightening. He says that when people are confident, they display certain behaviors: expansive body language, a calm vocal tone, a tendency to speak early and often. Others see this display and grant them respect and influence. Whether they are actually good at what they do is, in his words, kind of irrelevant. So, if competence isn't the key, and confidence is, we have to ask ourselves, what exactly is this stuff? For a long time, we've confused confidence with its cousin, self-esteem. Self-esteem is your general feeling of self-worth. I am a valuable person. It's important, but it's not the same as confidence. Confidence is about action. It's the belief that you can do something. It's not I am great, it's I can make this happen. To find the purest form of confidence, the authors went to a neuroscientist named Adam Kepeks, who studies rats. Why rats? Because they aren't complicated by ego or emotion. Kepeks puts a rat in a box with 3 ports. The middle one releases a mix of 2 smells. The rat's job is to sniff the mixture, decide which smell is dominant, and then poke its nose into the correct port on the left or right. If it's right, it gets a drop of water. But there's a catch. The rat has to wait for the water. If it's sure it made the right choice, it will wait patiently. If it's doubtful, it might give up and start a new trial, losing the time it already invested. How long the rat is willing to wait is a pure, biological measure of its certainty. It is, in its most elemental form, a demonstration of confidence. The rat is making a calculation and then betting on its decision. This led the authors to the most powerful definition in the entire book, given to them by psychologist Richard Petty. He said, "Confidence is the stuff that turns thoughts into action." Think about that. It's the bridge between imagining something and doing it. You can have the best idea in the world, you can be the most talented person in the room, but without the confidence to act, your thoughts stay locked in your head. The women in that Hewlett-Packard study had the competence, but they lacked the confidence to act on it. Their inaction guaranteed their failure to get the promotion. The men's action gave them a chance. This simple definition, the stuff that turns thoughts into action, is the key to unlocking the rest of the code. Because if confidence is about action, then it's not just a feeling you're born with. It's something you can build. But first, we have to understand where our baseline confidence level comes from. Is it nature, or is it nurture? The science, it turns out, says it's both. Let's start with nature. Are some people just born more confident? The answer is a surprising yes. The authors visited a research facility run by neuropsychologist Steve Swamy, who has been studying a colony of rhesus monkeys for over 40 years. Monkeys, it turns out, have distinct personalities, just like humans. Some are bold and adventurous leaders. Others are anxious and withdrawn. Swamy discovered that these personality traits are linked to our genes. Specifically, he looked at a gene called SLC6A4. This is the serotonin transporter gene. You've probably heard of serotonin. It's a chemical in our brain that helps regulate mood. More of it generally makes you feel calmer and happier. This gene controls how efficiently your body uses serotonin. It comes in a few variations. One version, with 2 long strands, is very efficient. People with this version tend to be more naturally resilient and less prone to anxiety. Another version, with 2 short strands, is inefficient. People with this hand are more susceptible to anxiety and depression. Swamy found he could predict which monkeys would be bold leaders and which would be anxious followers just by looking at their DNA. And here's the kicker. Humans have this exact same gene variation. This is just one piece of the genetic puzzle. There are other chemicals at play. There's dopamine, the chemical of motivation and reward, which drives us to explore and take risks. A variation of the dopamine gene, often called the adventure gene, is common in extreme athletes and risk-taking investors. Then there's the comp gene, known as the warrior/warrior gene. It controls how quickly your brain clears away dopamine, especially under stress. Warriors clear it quickly, so they perform best under pressure. Think of the star athlete who only shines in the final minutes of a big game. Warriors, on the other hand, clear dopamine slowly. Under normal conditions, this helps them focus and concentrate, and they often have higher IQs. But when stress hits, their brains get flooded with too much dopamine, and they can shut down or choke. Finally, there's oxytocin, the cuddle hormone. It promotes bonding, trust, and optimism. A positive outlook on the world makes it much easier to take risks and act. Just like the other genes, some of us are born with a more efficient version of the oxytocin gene than others. The authors, intrigued by all this, decided to get their own genes tested. They both discovered they have the warrior comp gene and the less efficient short/long serotonin gene. Genetically speaking, their profiles suggested a predisposition toward anxiety, not confidence. Yet, here they were, successful journalists who appear on live television for a living, one of the most stressful jobs imaginable. How is that possible? This brings us to the other side of the equation, nurture. Our genes are not our destiny. They are more like a blueprint. Our life experiences, our environment, our choices, our habits, are what build the house. And the most exciting discovery in modern neuroscience is that we can actually change the physical structure of our brains at any age. It's a concept called neuroplasticity. Think of your brain not as a fixed piece of hardware, but as a dynamic network of roads. When you have a recurring thought or perform a repeated action, you are strengthening a particular neural pathway. It's like turning a dirt path into a paved highway. Negative, anxious thoughts create superhighways for anxiety. But the reverse is also true. By consciously choosing new thoughts and behaviors, you can literally build new roads in your brain. Scientists have seen this in action. In one study, people suffering from a fear of spiders underwent a single 2-hour therapy session where they learned to approach and touch a live tarantula. Brain scans taken before and after showed a remarkable change. Activity in the amygdala, the brain's fear center, quieted down. And this change was still present 6 months later. They had physically rewired their fear response. Meditation has a similar effect. Studies show that after just 8 weeks of regular meditation, the amygdala actually shrinks, while the prefrontal cortex, the center of calm, rational thought, becomes more active. So, our genes give us a starting point, a certain propensity. But what we do with it matters just as much, if not more. This is where the confidence gap between genders really starts to widen. Because society nurtures boys and girls in profoundly different ways. From a very young age, girls are often rewarded for being good, for being quiet, compliant, and pleasing others. In school, this behavior pays off. Girls tend to get better grades. As author Carol Dweck says, if life were one long grade school, women would be the undisputed rulers of the world. But the real world isn't grade school. The workplace doesn't reward you for perfect spelling and exquisite manners. It rewards risk-taking, assertiveness, and self-promotion, behaviors that are often discouraged in girls but celebrated in boys. Boys, through roughhousing and competitive sports, learn to relish victory and, just as importantly, to shrug off defeat. They learn resilience. They learn to take a hit, get back up, and try again. Girls, who drop out of sports at 6 times the rate of boys during adolescence, often miss out on these crucial lessons in competition and failure. The result? Women enter the workforce trained for perfection, while men enter it trained for action. We believe that if we just work hard and keep our heads down, our talent will be recognized. But we watch as our male colleagues, who are often less capable but project more self-assurance, get promoted over us. This creates a terrible double bind. When women do act assertively, like men, we pay a social penalty. A man who speaks up in a meeting is a leader. A woman who does the same is often labeled a bitch. A study at Yale found that a female CEO who talked more than others was rated as less competent and less suited for leadership than a male CEO who talked for the exact same amount of time. Faced with this, it's no wonder so many women hold back. We're afraid of being disliked. We're afraid of being criticized. This fear leads to a cascade of self-sabotaging habits that become the assassins of confidence. First, there's overthinking, or as psychologists call it, ruminating. Women do a lot more of it than men. We get stuck in a loop, replaying a mistake, dissecting a conversation, worrying about what someone thinks of us. This endless spinning isn't problem-solving, it's paralysis. It's the opposite of action. While we're stuck in our heads, the world is moving on without us. Second, we internalize failure. When a man faces a setback, like not getting a job, he tends to blame external factors. The competition was tough, or they didn't review my application fairly. This is called external attribution. It protects his confidence. When a woman faces the same setback, her reaction is often personal. They found me out. I wasn't good enough. This is internal attribution, and it's devastating. It turns a single event into a story about our fundamental inadequacy. And third, the most crippling habit of all, the pursuit of perfection. This is the good girl syndrome all grown up. We feel we cannot act until we are perfectly ready, perfectly qualified, perfectly sure of the outcome. But perfection is an impossible standard. It keeps us from trying new things, from taking risks, and from making mistakes, the very things we need to do to build confidence. Perfectionism isn't a sign of high standards, it's a cage built from fear. So, here we are. We're wired with a certain genetic predisposition. We're nurtured by a society that sends mixed and often damaging signals. And we've developed a set of mental habits that hold us back. It can feel like a pretty bleak picture. But remember the core of this book: confidence is the stuff that turns thoughts into action. And action is a choice. We have the power to break these patterns. We can choose to nurture ourselves in a new way. The authors call this the new nurture. It's not about empty praise or making life easy. It's about grit, resilience, and embracing failure. One of the author's friends, a tech wizard, gave them the best advice: fail fast. This is a concept from the startup world. Instead of spending months perfecting a single product, you create a bunch of simple prototypes, get them out into the world quickly, see what works, and discard the rest. The beauty of failing fast is that you're failing small. Each failure is not a catastrophe, it's a data point. It's learning. This is the perfect model for building confidence. We need to stop seeing failure as an indictment of our worth and start seeing it as an essential part of the process. How do we do this? First, we must leave our comfort zone. Confidence is built on the edge of our abilities. Start small. If you're afraid of speaking in meetings, make a goal to say just one thing in your next meeting. If you're afraid of networking, introduce yourself to one new person at an event. These small acts of courage are like deposits in your confidence bank account. They build on each other. Second, we have to stop ruminating and start rewiring. When you catch yourself in a loop of negative automatic thoughts, or NATs, you can't just tell yourself to stop. You have to actively challenge them. When a thought like, "I'm going to fail this presentation," pops into your head, don't fight it. Instead, reframe it. Ask yourself for an alternative interpretation. Maybe I'll do a good job, or even if it's not perfect, I'll learn something from the experience. Just creating another possibility weakens the power of the negative thought. Over time, this becomes a new mental habit. You're building a new highway in your brain. Third, we need to stop personalizing. The world does not revolve around you. Most people are too busy worrying about their own lives to be obsessing over your mistakes. When you receive criticism, try to see it as feedback about your work, not an attack on your character. One simple trick is to mentally say thank you before you respond. It creates a small buffer, allowing you to process the information more objectively instead of emotionally. And finally, we need to learn to own our accomplishments. When someone praises you, what's your first instinct? For many women, it's to deflect, "Oh, it was nothing," or "I just got lucky." Stop doing that. When you downplay your success, you're not just being modest, you're reinforcing a story in your own mind that you don't deserve it. The next time someone gives you a compliment, just say two simple words: "Thank you." It will feel strange at first, but it's a powerful way to start internalizing your own value. As we practice these habits, acting despite our fear, reframing our thoughts, and owning our successes, something remarkable begins to happen. We start to build real, authentic confidence. And this is the final, most beautiful part of the code. This new confidence doesn't have to look like the loud, chest-thumping bravado we often associate with men. It can be quiet. It can be humble. It can be collaborative. It can admit to vulnerability. The authors tell the story of a new female president in a developing country. Her male predecessors all traveled with a massive, 25-car motorcade. She decided it was wasteful and cut it down to 5. Her advisors, especially the women, were horrified. They told her, "You're undermining the status of the presidency. People will think a woman is less than a man." Christine Lagarde, the head of the International Monetary Fund, gave her this advice: dare the difference. She told her, make it your selling point. Don't measure yourself against the yardsticks that men have used before you. You have a different perspective. You should be authentic about it. That is the art of confidence. It's not about becoming someone else. It's about having the courage to be fully yourself. It's about knowing your strengths and playing to them. It's about understanding that your way of leading, your way of contributing, is just as valid, and often more effective. The confidence code isn't a secret password you need to learn. It's a practice. It's a choice you make every day. The authors boil it down to 3 simple, powerful commands. Think less. Take action. Be authentic. Confidence isn't the outcome of success. It's the engine. It's the fuel that allows you to step out of the quiet harbor of your comfort zone and into the vast, unpredictable, and beautiful ocean of your potential. You may not know exactly where you're going, and the waters might get rough. But you will have the unshakable belief that you can handle whatever comes your way. And that is the greatest freedom of all. Commentary. When you finish a book like The Confidence Code, you don't just close it and put it back on the shelf. It stays with you. It changes the way you see the world, and more importantly, the way you see yourself. The most powerful lesson, for me, is the radical redefinition of confidence itself. For so long, we've treated it like a personality trait, something you either have or you don't. We look at a charismatic leader or a bold artist and think, they're just born that way. But this book demolishes that myth. It reframes confidence not as a state of being, but as an act of doing. The stuff that turns thoughts into action. This is incredibly liberating. It means confidence isn't a passive feeling you have to wait for. It's an active choice you can make, right now. It means that the path to becoming more confident isn't through positive affirmations or telling yourself you're great. The path is through taking small, courageous actions, again and again, especially when you're scared. The feeling of confidence doesn't precede the action, it follows it. What I also find so profound is the book's exploration of the hidden forces that shape us. The idea that our society systematically trains girls for perfection and boys for resilience is a hard but necessary truth to confront. It helps explain so many of the frustrations and double standards that persist in our world. It's not about placing blame, it's about gaining awareness. Once you see the pattern, you can choose to break it, both for yourself and for the next generation. So, how do we begin? How do we take these powerful ideas and weave them into the fabric of our lives? I believe it starts with one simple commitment: to embrace imperfection. For the next week, I want you to try this. Choose one small area of your life where you've been holding back because you're waiting for the perfect moment or the perfect plan. Maybe it's starting that workout routine, writing the first page of that story, or speaking up in a class. Give yourself permission to do it imperfectly. Do a 10-minute workout instead of an hour. Write one messy paragraph. Ask one clumsy question. The goal isn't to get it right, the goal is simply to act. To fail fast, and learn. And as you do this, pay attention to the voice in your head. When that negative, automatic thought pops up, this isn't good enough, people will think I'm stupid, don't argue with it. Just notice it, and then gently reframe it. Say to yourself, this is me taking action. This is me building confidence. This isn't a quick fix. It's a practice, like learning an instrument or a sport. But every time you choose action over inaction, every time you choose resilience over rumination, you are laying down a new neural pathway. You are physically rewiring your brain for courage. That was a summary of The Confidence Code by Katty and Claire Shipman. We've explored the main highways of their work today, but a summary is like looking at a map of a beautiful country. The real magic happens when you decide to travel there yourself. It's in the quiet moments, when a particular story or a simple phrase connects with you in a way you didn't expect. This summary is your map, designed to help you decide if this journey is one you want to take. If anything we've talked about today has resonated with you, I encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning, it's an experience that can genuinely change the way you see yourself and the possibilities for your life. You can find a link to the book in the description below. Also, if you found this summary valuable, please take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It lets me know that this work is making a difference, and it ensures you won't miss our next journey into another life-changing book from the billionaire's bookshelf. Let's keep growing together.